Good evening. What a day it has been here. We got issues all over the place. Technical issues, rainouts. You know what? We show up. I'm Chris Lee of Southeastern 14, joined by Alfred, Ezman, and Graham Doty. We'll talk some SEC baseball. We will preview a little bit of tomorrow's action. More games than we expected. We thought we'd see 2 games today, 2 games tomorrow. Instead, it was 1 game today, not involving SEC teams, but 3 games tomorrow. We now, gentlemen, have 5 teams left in the tournament. 4 from the SEC. What a place to be for the league. Mm-hmm. So before we get into all that, a reminder, we're brought to you by BetOnline, your number one source for the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup playoffs this season. Every stat, matchup, and live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game is over, head to our online casino, get in on the game of blackjack or poker, unwind with one of over 150 slots games. Head to the website today, get in on the action. Use the promo code, believe that is BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, the game starts here. All right, let's reset the schedule for Wednesday. Alfred, we've got game 1, Kentucky and Florida. That is 11 Eastern, 10 Central, I believe. That was supposed to be played today. Winner of that will play A&M at what?
7 East.
7-ish, 7
okay.
Central-ish. Okay. And then in between, we've got Tennessee and Florida State, by virtue of Florida State's win today over North Carolina, in a game where the Seminoles were kind of running away from it. And then Vance Honeycutt and the power department of North Carolina struck, and then Florida State answered with a couple of home runs. Let's talk about that one for a little bit because that will affect some SEC stuff. Alfred, what did we see out of Florida State today in its win over North Carolina?
The biggest thing that stood out to me, and it kind of was a theme that I'll talk about once we get more into their pitching, but their pitching today, they used 3 pitchers. They went Armstrong, Whitaker, and Holtz as the 2 out of the bullpen. Armstrong went 4 1/3, gave up 5 hits and 3 earned runs. Florida State's pitching only walked 3 batters between the 3 of them. Each of them had 1 walk apiece, which was very key. Not necessarily the most dominant outing from their pitching staff. 3 strikeouts also among the 3 of them, but hey, enough to get the win. And Connor Holtz, shout out to him out of the bullpen. He closed the game in 4 1/3 with giving up 2 hits and just 1 walk. He was the anchor to the win for Florida State. He kind of shut down North Carolina's lineup from doing anything else. And then Florida State had the back-to-back homers late to kind of solidify that win. So I focused a lot on pitching because I think, down the stretch when they play Tennessee and need to beat them twice, that's just going to be the biggest thing that they're going to have to focus on because we know this lineup that they have can rake with the best of anyone. I believe they're 7th, something like that in the country at this point in home runs. So they're a team that can hit a lot of home runs, but the pitching is going to be key. And it's tonight, or I guess today, and then the other day against Virginia, they didn't use a lot of pitching, and that only helps them in 2 games coming up against the country's most powerful lineup in Tennessee.
Graham, I don't think that there's not an easy matchup in this tournament. I mean, Florida's the one team that kind of sticks out as not belonging, but it was a team that was in the national title game a year ago, or the national title series, and we know it's got talent. But I felt like maybe if you're Tennessee, you were silently rooting for North Carolina because I think Florida State, the way it's hit in this tournament and in the postseason, look, your path to beating Tennessee is narrow. But I think it probably goes more at this point through a team that can just hit blasts with anybody. Because I don't think either Florida State or North Carolina had just dominant shutdown pitching. Now Florida State kind of had with Jamie Arnold. We saw how that went. That game ended up on Friday, 12-11. Am I overthinking it, or was I think Florida State's maybe a more interesting matchup for Tennessee tomorrow.
It is, and Alfred kind of touched on it a little bit. And I think it's going to be a lot of fireworks, mainly because these are 2 of the top offenses in the country. You look at Florida State, they are top 3 in 11 different offensive categories in the ACC. Now, they're top 10 or 12 in several categories as well in the country. They've actually hit more home runs in the tournament than Tennessee, and they played 1 more game. But this is a team that's been built around the long ball all season long. And just leaning on that offense, and they can hang toe for toe, and they showed that in the first meeting. like that dramatic walk-off for Tennessee. That was their first true walk-off victory this season. First time they came from behind in the ninth inning. They were 0 for 9 when trailing in the ninth inning, and then that was their one and only win this season. So we had a lot of fireworks in the first meeting. Second meeting should be a fantastic offensive matchup as well.
Now, there's a comment here about Jamie Arnold. Is Florida State named Jamie Arnold the starter tomorrow?
Link, they said it during the broadcast today, and before I looked anything up, that's Burnside that said that. Before I looked anything up, I saw when I was watching the game today that Link Jarrett kind of alluded to he's going to use Arnold again during an interview. He said he's not scared of putting him back out there. How I took that at first was if they knock off Tennessee in game 1, they'll throw him out there for Thursday game in a winner take all. Yeah. But I think the more I looked into it, he's talking about tomorrow. And if that's the possibility, and if that's happening, that changes the landscape of tomorrow's game completely, because we talked about it with Ryan Prager and A&M. Prager had that bad start, his worst of the year in the Super Regional, and then he's just been shut down since. You can very easily see that from Jamie Arnold. And I don't know, again, it's hard to say that against Tennessee's lineup, of course, but at the same time, Arnold did, for the longest time of his start against Tennessee, keep them at bay enough to make it a ball game. And you could see the same thing tomorrow, if not even better, because that was not the best we've seen this year from Jamie Arnold. And that, again, that completely changes the landscape of the game if that's true. So I think the Noles are going to roll with him tomorrow, which is very, very interesting.
Was he 100% in Friday's start? The reason I said I was in Atlanta watching the Braves and the Rays, but I was watching that on my phone. I didn't have the volume on, and the camera kept kind of showing his hand when the guys when the staff came out to talk to him. I didn't know if maybe it was a blister issue or something like that, or again, not having sound. I was just kind of curious about that.
Yeah, they came out. I saw that too. They came out and looked at it real quick. It was a quick visit though. I think they're going to trust their star pitcher here. And I think he just kind of said, look, I can pitch through this and whatnot. My guess is I'm not as educated yet on like blisters in baseball. I don't know if you can pitch on those, but I think Jamie Arnold could, for at least what it was worth. So, and he's had 3 days ish of rest now. So I think he should.
Tomorrow will be 5.
Yeah, 5. Oh, sorry. So 5 days of rest. So if anything, that helps him even more. And I think he'll be good to go. He'll be almost, if not 100%.
Yeah, I mean, that's a major league, timeline right there. I'm like, Chris Sale was pitching in Atlanta when I was out there Friday. I'm not sure Sale's turn to take the ball, but again, tomorrow against Detroit. But if not, it's the next day. So it's not. He threw 98 pitches. It wasn't like he threw 132. So yeah, there was. I guess it's. I was thinking maybe more that. Look, you've got to beat Tennessee twice, and maybe your chances of that are better if you rest Jamie Arnold one more day and go with somebody else. But then I'm thinking you're going to try to bring back one of the other starters that's always pitched at some point too. So maybe it's best just to clear the deck and throw Arnold out there. And Jamie Arnold, I thought maybe coming into the regional into Omaha, arguably the best pitcher in the tournament. I think Ryan Prager would be in that discussion in terms of starting pitchers. Even after Tennessee hit him a little bit the other night, he still got a 2.98 ERA, 105 and 2/3 innings. He struck out 159 guys. So we'll get in later into his specific performance against Tennessee. But one of the better arms in this tournament easily.
Very easily. I mean, I think at this point, if I had to go all the way back to the start, I'd throw Hagen-Smith in the mix. Obviously, that's a past thought at this point with Arkansas being out, but it's really, out of all the pitchers in this tournament, it's him and Prager left that are the two top guys. And for Tennessee, they're going to have to obviously face Arnold at least once. I think Jarrett's really just kind of saying, we can rest him for a Thursday game in a winner take all, but we want to make sure we get to that point. And he feels the safest with throwing Arnold back there on the rest he's had. And, props to him. Link Jarrett's an incredible coach. And I think a guy that gets thrown under the radar a lot just because of places he's been prior to Florida State. But if he thinks he's going to go that route, that's the route he'll go. And I mean, Tennessee's going to have to face him. And then if they go beyond that to, I guess, my prediction for the national title series, they're going to have to face Prager at least once in that championship best of three. So, yeah, I mean, I think those two are the best. And even you looked at Arnold's stats this year, they weren't really that affected that badly based on the last start. I mean, the opposing batting average went up to 224. I think it was below 200 before that game, but still low 200s is not a bad opposing average as a pitcher when you just look at it for what it is. So obviously I think Arnold and Prager at this point are the best two left, and Tennessee's going to have to face, I think they're going to have to face both those guys.
Oh, okay, let's talk about these 3 games tomorrow in order that they're played. Again, Kentucky, Florida starts at 10 in the morning. And we've got what? Is Florida going Pierce Coppola?
I believe that's what we said they're doing. I don't know if they've announced yet, but it would make sense for them to go Coppola with who they've started and who needs rest and stuff. So I think they go Coppola, but again, the key for Florida, and we talked, if people were watching the live stream last night, we kind of like talked about this game a little bit before, and we said Florida's just going to have to be efficient with the arms they throw out there, and that's exactly what Kevin O'Sullivan has implemented this tournament and how they've gotten here. Coppola will be out there. Neely's going to be out there to finish the game. In the middle, you could see guys like Slater, because I don't think we said he hasn't played. Menendez hadn't played yet either. So you're going to see, I think, plenty of arms. I think you're going to get more of an open out of Coppola. He could go 3 or 4, but don't be surprised at 1 or 2, regardless of what happens in his appearance. And I think O'Sullivan can lean on his bullpen, and guys who are rested, and Brandon Neely to kind of finish this game out if needed. But again, Florida's key is just going to be to keep Kentucky off the bases, because that's where they're dangerous.
Yeah. Coppola threw 18 2/3 innings this year. I don't know that he went even 4 innings in any start. I guess we'll see Dominic Neiman for Kentucky. Graham, I'll ask you this. Does getting a half a day back benefit either team here? Maybe Florida a little bit, maybe gives you a little bit more rest with Brandon Neely. Maybe I'm grasping for straws here, but what are we thinking?
I think it certainly can't hurt, right? I mean, you get a little more time to hang out at the hotel and just kind of come up with your game plan and everything. Just listening to like all the coaches in their post game pressers, like it is fascinating. It reminds me a lot of like a basketball tournament, conference tournaments, NCAA tournament. Like if you win, there's such a tight turnaround, and these coaches, they just stay up literally all night. Like today, Link Jarrett was talking about how he was hanging out in his hotel room, and the next thing he knew, at 2:00 in the morning, the scouting report was slid underneath his door. So it's just, it's just that kind of, I mean, that's the way it is in postseason play. These coaches, like, they hardly get any sleep, and they just are up all night grinding. So, I mean, I definitely don't think that it can hurt either one of these teams for sure.
Yeah, Neiman is the only lefty in that starting rotation for Kentucky. Lefties in the Florida lineup, we got Caglione, Colby Shelton. Probably their best 2 hitters remaining at this point are lefties. I don't know with Caglione it makes a difference. I don't know what the Shelton's platoon splits are either. But rest righties. Neiman just hasn't been really good in a while. So I'm presuming we'll see, probably Robert Hogan, Jackson Novey, a combination of guys. And Kentucky's got – basically they've trusted in this tournament. Cameron O'Brien, they've trusted him a lot. They've trusted Robert Hogan a good bit, Jackson Novey a good bit, Evan Byers some. They've started to trust Johnny Hummel again and Ryan Hagan. Now, that's really 6 guys. But Florida's pitching. It's whatever you can get out of your starters. Alfred, you mentioned some guys. And then I think it'll be very interesting to see how much they do or don't go to Neely again. I would almost – I mean, Kevin O'Sullivan's gotten this far gambling with this season. Why change anything, right?
Yeah, every game. You could you could take it to the bank. Every game from this point on, Neely will pitch. And I think it's just because Brandon Neely's going up to him and being like, look, I can go 3 more innings today and I can get you the win. So that's going to be the key. And I think the biggest thing, again, with Florida's pitching is just kind of managing what you have in front of them. And that that just comes with O'Sullivan's experience at this point in college baseball. And, you know, he's been brilliant with it. And with a likely, again, for everyone watching, we're not saying Coppola's starting. We're saying it's likely. With a likely Coppola start, that means a lot of bullpen guys in and out. So Coppola, Menendez, Slater, and Neely seems like a good formula. A few more guys like Clemente can go in there. Clemente's thrown, but he hasn't thrown a ton. So he's another guy who could go out there. And we'll just have to wait. But that's going to be the key. And he just has to reiterate, look, do not let these Kentucky guys get on base too much, or that's where they're going to hurt us. And with Florida's hitting, I mean, you got Neiman going out there, a lefty. Tyler Shelnutt's power has been nice. He can be a big factor, and Graham talked about it the other day. It's gonna, a lot of it, I think this game will fall on the role players in Florida's lineup to get it going. I just said his name, Shelnut. I can remember his name, Shelnut.
Tyler Shelnut, yeah.
Yes, yeah, Shelnut, Robertson, Ashton Wilson, who's been good this tournament. A lot of it will fall on them to kind of get it going, because a lot of their power bats, like you said, Chris, are lefties. So it's going to be an interesting game for Florida, but at the same time, I think it's a very doable and winnable game for Florida.
Yeah, and I'll tell you who else we'll see. I would almost guarantee we'll see Fisher Jameson. Mm-hmm. He threw, 52 pitches in the opener against A&M. That was Saturday night. He's really been their most effective arm on bounce. I know Neely's a guy that's getting all the attention, but in terms of giving up base runners, Jameson was the best at keeping guys off base. 4.14 ERA, that's pretty respectable in this day and age in college baseball, and an 8% free pass rate. So, again, what we talked about in Omaha, you don't want to just throw guys on base and let guys hit balls to the gap. So I think Florida's probably in a little bit better spot pitching-wise than I thought now that I dive into this. You know, again, if they go lefty, Kentucky's pretty balanced. Nicholson's probably their hottest hitter right now. He's a lefty. Waldschmidt's probably their best hitter on balance. He's a righty. Kentucky goes left-right switch. I don't know that it really matters in terms of the handedness. But, yeah, any other thoughts on Kentucky, Florida? Graham, I'll start with you. Let's give a pick and a why here.
Ooh, man. I'm going to go with Kentucky just because I feel like this veteran experience with this group this season, the team chemistry has been off the charts. I kind of feel like people have been waiting for them to like kind of fold or just set up shop as the season has gone on, but they have certainly proved that they belong at this level. They've had a phenomenal run, phenomenal season. I just think this group of guys, like, backs against the wall, they're playing Florida again. This is the 4th or 5th meeting this season, so obviously very familiar with each other, but this is a team led by a bunch of 23, 24-year-olds, Nicholson, Lopez, guys like that, you name it. I just think they're so relentless, and their head coach, is just so phenomenal. I can just see him giving a Braveheart speech or something. And just firing everybody up, and they just get so amped up to play Florida. Bright and early, too, 10 a.m. Central Time, first pitch.
Alfred.
Oh, man, this game's going to be close, and it's going to be, I think, one of the better games we see in Omaha. Just, 2 SEC teams going at it. I'm going to go, to make things interesting, the opposite of Graham. I think Florida takes this to take on A&M. The reason is I trust, again, I think I trust Kevin O'Sullivan's managerial skills here. I do think we're going to see some big games out of role players. I do think I'm going to put my money on Tyler Shelnut hitting a home run. Let's see if that holds up. You guys can hold me to that, but I think that'll happen tomorrow. And then down the stretch, I mean, once Kentucky sees Brandon Neely, I think that's trouble. And I think Brandon Neely's been incredible at keeping guys off the base pads. And if he can do that, Florida sets themselves up nicely. The key for them is just to keep people off the bases. And I think they can easily do it with the arms they throw out there tomorrow. If they're efficient and they know when to take them out and put new guys in. And I think it's going to be close. And we saw it this year when these teams met. Florida dominant win, and then Florida lost 2 extra inning close losses. So they know this Kentucky squad. They've seen them. Granted, regular season at this point means kind of almost nothing, but just for comparing sake, Florida played this team close, and I think they get the edge here to challenge A&M for a spot in the championship series.
Yeah, I've been riding off Florida since Stillwater. I've been wrong the whole way. But darn it, I'm going to stick with it.
Why not?
No,
Write it out at this
why
point.
not? I mean, I'm having fun, obviously. Look, they got a lot of talent. Some of their young talent has grown up. I'm just kind of with Graham on this. I trust Kentucky's lineup. I think it is going to hit better than we saw it hit Ryan Prager the other night. I think it's old. I think handed this again. I think Florida's in a little better pitching shape than I thought now that I've dug into it. But I just think, I don't know, outside of Caglione, the rest of the guys just have not been consistent. And I think that's the difference between them and Kentucky. So I'm going to take Kentucky to advance where it will play A&M. We'll circle back to that one later. I guess we're going to preview a hypothetical matchup there briefly later in the broadcast. But let's talk about the one that I think people tuned in for. We think Jamie Arnold's going to pitch tomorrow. And I saw some smack talk. Jamie Arnold, well, look, hey, guys, it's baseball's a different game every day with an ace on the mound. And Arnold had one of his worst starts of the year against Tennessee. Did Tennessee have something to do with that? Absolutely. But it's going to be, again, I think if you're just life's depending on it, we need to pick a starter, any of us, to go in a deciding game for our lives. I think Jamie Arnold, is a top 2 or 3 selection and maybe the number 1 overall selection. Ryan Prager might be the guy that I would take. Probably would be. But, I mean, it's flip a coin. Look, Jamie Arnold is a guy that's probably going to be a first-round draft pick. Struck out 159 guys this year. That's got to be top 5 in baseball. So this guy's a dude. Yes, Graham?
It was third in the country. Yeah.
Well, like I said, top 5. There you go. But he's a dude. And I think that makes tomorrow's game a fascinating game because Florida State's offense as good as Tennessee's? No, but it's pretty close. You've got a couple of first rounders there in Tibbs, Cam Smith, and I'm talking like mid first round or higher, maybe according to MLB.com. They've got some other guys that have lit it on fire in this tournament. Now, I think Tennessee's pitching depth is better than Florida State's, and that may come back into play as we're giving our picks. But Alfred, start us off here. Let's start with Tennessee's pitching situation because we've talked about FSU's a little bit, but the Vols will probably be going with Xander Sechrist, and then I'm thinking anybody and everybody other than maybe Drew Beam is going to be available after that.
Yeah, and Sechrist has been their best starter, I think, as of late, if we're talking about what he's done at least this NCAA tournament. And that's good for Tennessee because he's the third guy out of the rotation usually when they start anew, so to speak. And if they have him, that's going to create a good pitching matchup tomorrow if it's Sechrist and Arnold. And Sechrist stuff this year has been very, very good. I'm looking at him right now and his stats. I just lost it. Here it is. 3.26 ERA and 66 and a third. I believe that's 66 strikeouts, which is very efficient. It's at least a strikeout an inning. Average is 255, which isn't bad either. I think he's just kind of it's not an overpowering presence on the mound, but it's one that is a lot of ground ball, and he just does not let you get on base that often. And that's very key. And if that's what you got to do against this Florida State lineup, because that's the first step. Because we saw that the first time these teams met, Stamos got rattled at first, to start that game. And, once Tennessee kind of just lingered around a little bit, that they were able to eventually hang around and depend on their offense. And that's the biggest thing is that this Tennessee pitching staff, someone was saying, they don't get enough respect in the chat. I think they obviously do. They've had a top 5 ERA in baseball all year. It's just that the offense has been just such a fireworks show at this point. We don't really talk about it as much, and they have to do just enough to get by. And Sechrist is the perfect guy for that. I think this tournament, that's how he's been able to kind of take the title as the best name in that rotation thus far.
Yeah. Looking back to Tennessee, Sechrist has got, among the starters, the lowest ERA on the staff by almost a run. I'm going to count AJ Causey as a starter. I know he's not, but he really is. He's got a free pass rate of 5%. That's walks plus hit batsman. That's elite. He's got a 19% ground ball tilt on all plate appearances. That's not elite, but it's when you're not putting guys on base. He's not overpowering. He's got a 25% strikeout rate, but he allows fewer base runners per innings pitched of anybody on the staff. Or we're going to exclude JJ Garcia, who threw an inning of 11 and 2/3 innings. And Dylan Lloyd was also ahead of him, but he didn't throw as many innings as Sechrist did. And Combs was close, but point is, like you said, he kind of flew under the radar. And then I guess they'll go. I think Nate Snead will be the next guy out of the pen, wouldn't you?
Mm. Yeah, he'd definitely be up there because he barely pitched that was their second game, right? Yeah, he barely pitched that second game to finish it out against North Carolina, and I think he's the next guy out of there. I'm looking at other guys. Wouldn't be surprised. I think they're just kind of giving Kirby Cannell a kind of victory lap, so to speak. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go with him again, and maybe a little bit. If you could check, maybe the pitch count suggests otherwise, but that would be a guess too. I wouldn't put it past Tony V. And really, Chris, I think we saw in Hoover, at this point, they're not really afraid to kind of dig deep. We saw with Marcus Phillips and Dylan Lloyd. We haven't seen them in a good while go out there and pitch. And I'm sure, Tony Vitello is like, hey, if we're going to win it all, you have to be about the moment. And here's your opportunity. And he could throw those guys out there as well. So I think Tennessee's pitching bag has gotten deeper as time's gone on. And that's what's made them more dangerous. And we can see a ton of guys out there, guys who've already pitched, but going back to Snead, I think Snead's a guy you could go for a lot of middle innings and get a good work out of once Sechrist tires out. And Sechrist, we're looking at him in his recent starts, he's gone pretty deep as well. I mean, his last start was Evansville. He went 6 1/3. Southern Miss 4 2/3. Before that, Vanderbilt in the SEC tournament, 6 innings, and then South Carolina during the regular season, he went 6 innings. So all of his, I think that was like 5 starts I just named. He's gone deep into games, and that's just going to help Tennessee and their pitching because they just really, don't need to go as deep as they normally could or would.
Graham, I'm going to get you to talk about the Florida State lineup in just a second. But before I do, let me clarify something because somebody said it'll be Combs. I guess here's the way I should have said it. If they get in early trouble, Snead is the guy they usually bring in 4th or 5th inning. And Snead, it leads there. In fact, Snead's thrown more innings than Xander Sechrist. And again, I've been I think I've been more effusive in my praise for Snead than Combs this year. And that's just innings pitched. Innings pitched are an indicator of how much your coach trusts you. And he's trusted Nate Snead more than any of those guys. No, I think pitch for pitch, Combs has been the better guy. But he's also thrown fewer innings by what, 40-something, 30-something, I guess, close to that.
Yeah.
So that wasn't – yes, if you want to say Combs is their best reliever, I get it. I mean, they're really kind of two different questions. Like, one, who do you trust to go longer? And number two, like, who do you go to if you got one inning with your life depending on it? I'm sure we'll see at some point Kirby Cannell, who's gone more to a bulk closing role. He's that lefty that is kind of a change of pace guy. They bring all these guys throwing gas out of the bullpen. And two lefties, too. Andrew Binky and Dylan Lloyd have both been really good lately, too. So don't sleep on those guys.
Yeah, not at all. And I think the key, too, I think it was TaylorMade that said that we could easily see, I could see this scenario happening too. If Sechrist has a good chance of going deep, with all due respect to Florida State's lineup. And if he does that 6 innings or 7 innings or so, they could put Combs out there and let him work the rest of the way. And I wouldn't be shocked if we see just Sechrist and Combs out there. And if that's the case, yeah. But like you said, early on, I think Snead would be a better option and more fit. But we don't know. Tony Vitello is going to do his thing.
All right, Graham, we kept you silent for a few minutes, not intentionally, but a lot to talk about with Tennessee's bullpen. Let's hear it on the Florida State offense for tomorrow.
Well, so far in the College World Series, they had 14 hits today against North Carolina. So they won today, obviously 9-5. And in the postseason, mainly the College World Series, they've scored at least 7 runs. They've had at least 7 hits in every game so far in Omaha. Here's what's interesting. You touched on Tibbs earlier and Cam Smith. Tibbs in the super regionals against UConn, he was phenomenal. He had 7 hits. Do you know, other than that super regional, guess how many hits he has in the regional and Omaha? 2.
No idea. 2. Yeah. Well,
2?
they've had other guys carrying them.
Yeah. So this week he's 2 for 12 in Omaha. That's the ACC Player of the
Goodness.
Year. Like his
Yeah.
batting average, he was around the 400 mark, like kind of around the conference tournament time. He's now in the 360s. So they have been able to score and do all this damage, and he hasn't really been that hot at the plate as of late. When you look at Cam Smith, he's a guy. He's got the most hits in the ACC in Omaha. He's 2 for 11 this week. So their top 2 bats haven't really got going yet in Omaha. But what has worked so well for Florida State, they're pretty balanced. They got 5 players with 4 hits or more in the lineup. One of the big players this week, Jaime Ferrer, he's got 3 home runs in the tournament or in Omaha. He's got 5 hits. So he's got the most hits in Omaha for Florida State. So he's kind of what they've leaned on. They got a big performance today by Jackson West in the 9 spot. He had a career high 4 hits, the Alabama transfer. So kind of all season long, what makes Florida State so good, they are consistent 1 through 9. The lineup doesn't really change very much at all. It hasn't this week in Omaha. And they just tear the cover off the baseball. Very similar to what Tennessee does. They are no stranger to getting double-digit hits and double-digit runs. Again, they're top 3 in 11 different offensive categories in the ACC. So they've had a lot of success all season long. And what's fascinating with them, they're still playing at a pretty high level without their top 2 at-bats in Omaha and Tibbs and Smith.
Yeah, and again, if people miss it, those guys are expected to be solidly in the first round
big time
of this year's MLB draft. So they are dudes. All right, Alfred, I think your afternoon homework assignment was talking about Florida State's pitching. We've talked a lot about Jamie Arnold, but what do they have left when he's done? I think you said they threw Whitaker, Holtz, and Armstrong. Was that today? And I think
today,
all those
yes.
guys. So I think Whitaker threw 30, 20. The other guys threw over 50, so presumably they're unavailable.
Right.
Looking down the stat sheet, Cam Leiter's a name a lot of people know from that
Yes.
Leiter family, but he's done for the year, been out for a while, so cross that one off your list of guys. I think when you look at the pitching depth, I don't feel like they've got as many quality arms as Tennessee does left after the starting pitcher. But they do have some guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't. I don't think they have a guy that can start like a normal full length start. They have guys that can open at this point, other than obviously Arnold if he goes out there. But beyond that, they don't really have a lot of guys. The good news though for Florida State is, like I said it first when we got on, the past 2 games they've used 5 pitchers, and that's really key. And I think if you're going up against Tennessee, you need all the help you can get, and they're going to get it. The 5 they used, Whitaker, I think, pretty much done. He did only go a third today, but he's thrown a lot this weekend, and they've kind of backpacked off him. They about went Brennan Oxford again. He pitched against Virginia, and they were about to send him out there, but they just let Holtz go out there and finish the game. So Oxford's definitely a name I think we'll see tomorrow at least, once Arnold goes deep enough. And even if they go to a Thursday game, they could put him out there again. His stuff is really good. I saw it just earlier, 3.31 ERA and 54 and a third. 66 strikeouts over that stretch, really efficient, 27 walks. He's only hit 3 batters too, which is one of the lowest in that staff. So very, very good relief arm out of them. He's a big name that stuck out. Other guys, I'm looking down their list that I think could go out there. I mean, you got Jonathan Abraham, 4.24 ERA. 29 or 42 strikeouts, excuse me. He's only hit 6 batters. His opposing average too, 157. And we just haven't seen him out there a lot. That's another name they could throw out there. So I think beyond Arnold, they don't have a lot of guys that could go a full length start, but don't let that kind of get your hopes up if you're Tennessee, because they have a lot of guys that can go out there in relief and shove if necessary. And that's what it's going to be. It's going to be kind of platoon swaps for Florida State outside of Jamie Arnold, and we'll see where that gets them. But they benefited from not using a lot of pitching against Virginia and North Carolina.
Yeah, two things here, and one will sort of transition into the other. Oxford did get hit hard at times. In his 54 and a third innings, gave up 12 doubles, a triple, and 7 home runs. We know what Tennessee can do. That's hit the ball out of the park. So you need to keep the ball on the ground against these guys. 8 guys with double-figure home runs. Arnold's a lefty. Tennessee's lineup, your lefties are Burke, Dreiling, and Tiers. If Bargo starts, which I would presume he would not, I would think they would go with oh gosh, probably. Well, Reese Chapman's a lefty too. Have we seen? Well, Peebles would be one. He's a switch hitter. Have we seen Villanueva in a while?
No, he's kind of weird. I mean, I don't think we've seen him since Hoover, or he didn't even play in Hoover since the regular season. I think he was mostly sub in during the midweek or start in the DH during the midweeks. You could see that. I would think they just go Peebles then if that's the case. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
That would be a bold move, and I wouldn't push it past Tony Vitello, if you've seen it. But yeah, I mean, it would make sense to go, I think, Peebles here if it's lefty on the mound, and I think that's where they'll go with that. Peebles is a guy who kind of had an off year, but down the stretch he's come up big in certain spots, and it was a transfer portal move they made that was supposed to be huge. As ACC all freshman out of NC State, and then he came in and just kind of. It was like, he's there. Yeah. He's just a guy you sub in now. But to his credit, I mean, he's stuck it through and he's been out there and he's made some big plays down the stretch. So I think that's where they'd go tomorrow.
Well, the reason I brought that up is lefty on the mound. Again, Bargo's a lefty, Chapman's a lefty, and Peebles is a switch hitter. So I think that's going to be the call. And he hit better. I don't know, probably the last month and a half of the season. I mean, he really struggled after transferring from NC State. So I think that's, and I don't know, maybe one of these guys, maybe one of these lefties, Bargo's been on fire lately and Chapman hit a home run. Maybe some of these guys have got reverse splits or something. I would be lying if I told you I knew. But so that's your situation there. You're going to go with, I would think, a slightly more righty heavy lineup. You got Stark, Moore, Amick, Curley, Inslee, all righties. So again, barring something weird with the splits, that's probably how they line up. One thing Jamie Arnold did pretty well, kept the ball in the park. 7 home runs all year against him. I think Tennessee had 1 or 2 in the opener off Arnold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they hit they hit a few off of him, but it was mostly down the stretch where they got the hitting going because it was just that 4-run comeback that was huge. Jamie Arnold, I mean, it wasn't a good start for him, but I wouldn't call it bad either, just because he kept Florida State right there in striking distance of winning the game. I mean, flat out. And against Tennessee, that's what you'll take. So it wasn't vintage Jamie Arnold like we've seen where he just dominates games. But against Tennessee, all you can ask for really out of him at this point, based off the last start, is just do enough to put us in position and then let our lineup that's also, I'd say, right around top 10 in college baseball do their thing. And that's where I'd go with it with him.
Yeah, here's the other thing. And I knew I was forgetting something, and it came up in the chat. Hunter Inslee's injury. Crashed into the wall, tried to gut it out, had to come out of the game. If he doesn't go, how they line up. Some people saying they throw Chapman in center. I can't remember where Chapman played. I felt like when I saw Chapman play, he was either a DH or a right fielder.
Yeah, he usually,
because Inslee didn't come out a lot. I feel like the last part of the season, and they played. What they did is they went to Backus in center when they took Inslee out.
Right, and I don't know if you guys help me out too with this. I don't know if there's a huge difference. They usually I've seen Reese Chapman go left or right for Dreiling or Tiers, mostly right for Tiers. And I don't know if there's there probably is a huge difference playing center field from right or left. And that's why I think they sent Backus out there for Inslee instead. Well, they sent him out there because Reese Chapman was DHing, but I think that could be one reason they sent Backus out there if forced to choose. But I mean, I wouldn't put it past to put Chapman out there. Those are the two names that you'll see if they go out there, Backus and Chapman. That could be huge too, because Hunter Inslee's a guy who it's not the craziest bat in the lineup, but you put him on any other team, and he's a top bat in their lineup. So
yeah,
it could be a big time loss. And on top of that, I think his defense is pretty not talked about enough compared to other center fielders around the country, and it's that would be pretty big for Tennessee, because I think that's a guy who's been in this program for a while. It's one of those, he's been to Omaha before dudes, and not having him out there hurts like injuries A&M has had, which is huge. I don't think there's a chance we could see him too. I'm looking at stuff trying to figure out what Tony had to say. But
well, here's the other question I have. I can't remember if Tears got any time in center right. I don't know how that plays, and it's a tough spot to put a guy in a big park if he's not played a lot out there. But he runs reasonably well, and he's got a cannon for an arm, which is probably why he's in right. I mean, he's got a major league arm in right field. So I don't know if that's another, or maybe Inslee just guts it out and goes, and that's it. But
well, yeah. Tony did talk about it in his post-game presser. And what he was saying was he felt that he used the wrong word. Like, he had the headset. They interviewed him during the game and asked him about Inslee. And Tony said the word he used was woozy. And everybody thought he was talking about a head injury. And he said that's not the case at all. It's his hip. So it's kind of like a pain tolerance thing. Again, Tennessee had today off, so hopefully I know Tennessee's hoping this extra day of rest can certainly help, and he'll be out there. But it's not a head injury, it's a hip injury. That's according to Tony Vitello in his post game presser.
Yeah, Christian Moore's name popped up, and that's the thing. Some people think Christian Moore's future in the major leagues is a center fielder. Again, I don't know if he's played center this year. They would sometimes take Antigua and throw him at second when Tears was not on the field to give him a rest for whatever reason. So, I don't know if that's something you throw in this late in the season, but that's another thing. So, I wouldn't think you do that. But I think we're just trying to exhaust all the possibilities here. So
right. No, they have. I think they have way better options going, with other people in the outfield other than Christian Moore. Christian Moore's been just kind of a centerfold in that second base spot, so I could see them going. Josh Carter said they moved Tears has played center, and they can move him over there. That would make sense too, because you keep Chapman on either the left or right side, and Dreiling obviously is out there too. So that may be the best way to go about it. But we could easily see Backus out there if they feel weird about where Tears is positionally, but that's my 2 cents.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else on this one that we didn't get into?
Tinker said, could I play center field tomorrow? I'm pretty fast, Tinker. I'm not lying. I probably want to go head first into the wall like Hunter Ensley did, but I could do it. Who knows? Give Colby Backus the start though.
Yeah, Backus didn't play a ton. 38 plate appearances. It was really good with the bat when he did play. I just hadn't seen him defend enough to know what they get. I do know that's what they went to the other night. But predictions. Graham, we'll start with you. Go Alfred, then go me.
I'm going to go Tennessee. I just think this is a team kind of on a mission right now. I mean, trying to be that first team since 1991 or 1999 to be the number one overall seed to win the whole thing. Offense has just been lights out as it has been all season, leading the country in home runs. I just think this offense, this much firepower, just too much. I think it's going to be a great game, though. I think two of the top offenses in the country. I think we'll see a lot of fireworks, kind of like what we saw the other day to kick off the tournament for these two teams. A lot of fireworks, but I think Tennessee is able to pull away at the end.
My turn. I'm going to stick with it, too. I think Tennessee takes this. I just think this team is playing way too well right now. They have, I think, as of recent at least, their best starter going out there tomorrow who can go deep into games. I think he's going to give Florida State some kind of good pitching. I think Florida State will score runs. I saw someone said 9-3 final score. I think Florida State's going to go score more than 3 runs. But I think Sechrist is going to do enough to put this lineup into opposition to kind of just, do what they normally do. And that's hit a lot of bombs, especially with righty heavy if they do go Arnold as a lefty. And I think that's just going to be the biggest key. If we look at handedness with Tennessee, that can only help them because, it's just the best hitting team in baseball. So I got the Vols winning it, and they're going to be cruising into the championship final.
Okay, when we started the College World Series, I said I thought Florida State would win the first game. Tennessee would go through the losers bracket and get to the title series. The first game did not go at all like I thought it would. I think both teams were a little nervous, not on their game, and of course we know how that ended. I think Arnold will pitch better this time around, but it does – I thought he would have pitched better than he did. 4 strikeouts in 5 innings. Tennessee does strike out. For all the home run numbers, they do tend to whiff a little bit. That tells me they could pick him up. 2, pitching depth. I think once we get past the starting pitchers, and I think Arnold will probably throw longer than Sechrist, but I think once you get into the pen, that they got Snead, they got all those other guys. I will take Tennessee to get this one. I don't think it's going to be a walk for either team. But, yeah, I think this could go down to the end, and I think I trust Tennessee at the end to get the big outs a little bit more. And, of course, we've seen them, get the hits at the big time. So I'll take Tennessee to get this one tomorrow and advance to the series where we'll play because we picked we went 2 out of 3 Kentucky, didn't we?
Yes.
All right. So we're going to do a preemptive preview of A&M and Kentucky, which I think – let me double check here. This is from memory, but it's been a long season. Yeah, right. They did not play during the regular season. Of course, did play the other night in the Ryan Prager special where that kid was just dominant. They got their first hit in the 7th inning?
Yeah, Kentucky got their first hit in the 7th. Didn't score a run either until like the 9th. So
now where this one could get interesting, and again, we're presuming Kentucky beats Florida. If Florida wins, I don't know where they'll be with pitching, but so it's another thing. But I think, gosh, here's where it gets interesting because Kentucky at that point can flip back over to Hoosier, I guess. I mean, if Florida State's going to do it with Jamie Arnold, why not Kentucky, right?
Right. Yeah, they could easily flip to him again. I think – I'm trying to think. Yeah, actually, they very well could. Because if they go Neiman, it would make sense to go back his way. Pujo's had enough rest at this point. It reminds me of Florida State going Arnold tomorrow. Kind of that same sort of mindset about it.
Yeah. Now this one gets interesting because I like A&M's pitching better, but where A&M is in the pitching cycle is a little different. The Sadeo injury, and this may be the dumbest thing we do because we're picking a game based on an earlier in the day game that we think Kentucky's going to win. But hey, we're here for fun and speculation. That's what you do. Gosh, I guess I don't know if A&M goes to Tanner Jones, who just hadn't been good in a while. That's probably a heavy Chris Cortez game. But then and of course A&M's got a loss to play with. But I think this one kind of becomes interesting tomorrow. And Graham, I'll start with you here because it does flip the pitching back over potentially with Poozer. And if they do that, then, it's not going to be Prager. I'm sure you're going to see a heavy dose of Evan Ashenbeck. If that game is, 3-3 in the 6th inning, you know who's getting the ball at that point. But I think this one's more interesting just potentially based on that dynamic, if that's what Nick Mingione does.
Yeah. I think for me, this one is so different than the other side of the bracket, mostly due to the injury factor for Texas A&M.
Yeah.
I think whoever they match up with, their odds are a little bit better just because of all the injuries with Texas A&M, but it is so difficult to beat a team of the caliber of Texas A&M, not once but twice. So for somebody to have to try to knock the Aggies off twice, I mean, I'm picking Texas A&M. Like they've been very consistent and phenomenal all season long, and like you said, their offense, their pitching, they're in decent shape. So I'm going Texas A&M to shake up for an SEC all championship finale finish.
I would have to say I'm going to go A&M too, and I think, kind of alluding to what Graham said, well, I don't think we've had any. The injuries have been just excruciating on paper for the Aggies, obviously with Montgomery, Sadeo, and stuff like that. But we haven't had any reason, if we look at how they've played with these injuries, to think that they can't get it done otherwise. I mean, it's guys stepping up. I think the guy who's been just incredibly huge for them hitting the baseball has been Hayden Schott. Every time I look up what he's done, he has like at least 2 or 3 hits with an RBI or 2, and that's just massive considering who they don't have out there. They've also, been carried on the back of a Pell. Caden Kent has done, I think, well enough in place of Montgomery to kind of just, sit there and be the role guy for the time being to get them to a championship series. And and we look at Poozer. He got some rest, but he did pitch. I think it was like 106 pitches on Saturday. That's a lot. So I think it could maybe, I know depending on what you guys think, it could maybe play a factor into his next start not being as long, but I wouldn't put it past him going long anyway. Regardless of that, though, Kentucky has to do it twice, and they have to do it the same day they play a game, which I don't think we've said yet, which is going to be like a little doubleheader in and of itself with a large, awkward gap in between. And I think it's kind of just looking at it from that perspective. I think the hitting for A&M has been good enough to get them at least to a championship series, and I think it'll get them past Kentucky based off what Prager did to them and even just what they've done in general this tournament.
Yeah, I think this is one of these that if you were sitting on that other side of the bracket, you are really hoping Kentucky wins, or if it's Florida. Because what that does is that really eats into A&M's pitch. And I think A&M is eventually going to get there. I don't think it's going to be tomorrow. I think if Poozer gets the ball, I'm a little concerned unless – I don't know who gets the ball to start. I mean, they could give it to – I think Isaac Morton might have been their 4 during the year. Maybe – I guess they'll go with Tanner Jones. He just has not been any good in so long. This might be a game where the bullpen gets depleted a little bit. Again, Poozer's been really good for them. And I'm going to presume it's Trey Poozer. I may be dead wrong, but I'm going to go Kentucky to get one tomorrow, A&M to get the elimination game, and then they'll end up meeting Tennessee in the title, at which point Tony Vitel's really smiling because you have at that point really, because I think if this is what I'm watching, okay? If this gets to the title round, and I think A&M and Tennessee are both going to advance, but who knows how that looks, right? I mean, I think that you could even see some extra innings in some of these games tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Who knows? Hey, what if Kentucky's going extra innings and playing 2 games? And that'd be pretty crazy. But
yeah.
I think a lot hinges on not just who wins these next 2 days, but how they get there.
Right.
Because if you want just the best baseball scenario, well, first of all, we got Jay Slavolette. We don't know. I'm presuming he's going to play. I wonder if he's DHing tomorrow. I really do. I think you could see they maybe could throw Caden Sorrell in center. He's pretty athletic. Or Chestnut's been playing center.
Yeah.
You could see one of those guys in right. I don't know how they line up, but if everybody wins, if A&M and Tennessee both advance tomorrow, here's what you're going to see. You're going to see Tennessee reset it with, I would presume, Stamos as the opener, although you might want to rethink that one at this point. That hadn't gone well in a while.
I'm off the train too.
But you're going to see a heavy dose of Causey, I would think.
Right.
By that point, I would think that A&M would save Prager for game 2. And go, I don't know, probably at the point you go Maybe go
Could they do
Lampkin in
Lampkin?
game one. When did Lampkin throw? I feel like did he throw the game before that?
Lampkin went. I'm trying to look. I know he's gone recently. He's gone recent. That would make sense though, out of anybody, for them to go him.
Lampkin threw the 15th against Florida. So
right.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it. I mean, you got Ashenbeck and Cortez sitting there, and that's a big luxury because either of those guys can throw 4 innings and just shut you down. I mean, heck, you could even go Cortez as an opener and Ashenbeck to close and get it done with those 2 guys alone.
Yeah.
But that's less of an option if you need 2 games between now and then to get there. I mean, if you're A&M, you really want to shut that thing down tomorrow night.
Right. No, because you have to play the next day if you have to force and win a game 2, win or go home type of scenario. Yeah. And if your pitching's that depleted and you're going to face Tennessee, good luck is all I have to say at that point.
God, that's a lot of ifs. but that's the fun of this time of year. I mean, it's not like any other sport. The game is different every day based on who you've got on the mound. So.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, we just did. You got to think about it too, guys. How much time did we spend? Did we spend 15, 20 minutes on a Kentucky A&M game that I will die laughing if that doesn't happen? It works out the other way. So we just have no idea in the end. And that's the beauty of it. I mean, we're getting down to the stretch where, I mean, it's just 5 teams left to talk about in general, and we just covered all 5 to some degree. So yeah, I mean, it's a fun time of year, and I can't wait. We're going to have some really good games. I think every game from here on out is going to be turn on the TV and watch it, because it's going to be, I think all of them are going to be close. I mean, I can't really think of a scenario where there's a blowout like we saw, or like a dominant stretch like we saw with Prager in Kentucky, or even what Tennessee just had against North Carolina. I think they're all going to be very, very good. And yeah, I think I'm looking forward to that a lot.
But you know what's going to happen now, because I keep blowing Florida off. I've just considered Florida the afterthought in all this. Florida's going to win this whole thing with Neely throwing 75 pitches.
he's gonna go all 9 every game,
because why not?
Right. He's gonna go all 9 complete games every single game. He's just gonna do it at this point. Right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past him. He can do it.
All right. Parting thoughts, starting with Graham.
Excited. Can't wait, especially for this Tennessee-Florida State matchup. If it's anything like what we saw to kick off the College World Series for both of these teams, like I expect a phenomenal game. And then the other side of the bracket, and just an intriguing matchup. Kentucky, Florida meet again. Like, who's going to come out on top? Should be another fantastic matchup to watch. What a week! What a fantastic World Series this has been this year.
Yeah, what I have to go with is, I think just to start the day, Florida Kentucky is going to be a brilliant matchup. Just, so many factors playing into it. How Florida pitches against a team that lives off the small ball. Will, someone mentioned it too. Kentucky's lineup hasn't been hitting like they normally do. Will Kentucky's hitting wake up a little bit? And then beyond that, Tennessee, Florida State. I think we're gonna get something at least a little similar to last time. I don't know if it'll be that kind of cinematic ending we got, but it'll be a good game down the stretch. And it's 2 great arms. I mean, looking at it now, I don't know if we could have asked for a better pitching matchup than Jamie Arnold, we think, and then Xander Sechrist, because that's going to go. That's just going to be something you're going to want to tune into. And at this point, I think the really interesting thing, the most interesting part of the day, is going to be winner of Florida Kentucky. How do they respond to playing a doubleheader essentially against an A&M team that's we all 3 think is going to get into the final? And how do they respond to that? And what do they do to kind of pitch against that? So that would be. It's a lot of cool stuff happening tomorrow. I think this rain problems we had today in Omaha are a blessing in disguise, and everyone get ready. Here we go.
All right, here's what you're going to see tomorrow. You're going to see what I think are probably the best 2 teams in college baseball in A&M and Tennessee, not playing each other, but just there's 3 games tomorrow. You're going to see those 2 teams. A&M is not the A&M we thought we'd get now with the 3 major injuries, although who knows, with Lavalette maybe Maybe he plays, maybe he DHs. We'll wait and see. But either way, still a really good team. You're going to see the Cinderella story, Florida Gators, national runner-ups last year, starting to play well again. Do I think Florida's as good a team as the other teams in the field? No, I don't. But they are plenty talented. You look at the way Kevin O'Sullivan recruits every year. You're going to see Kentucky, which is a top 5 team in college baseball, and you're going to see Florida State, which is probably, if not top 5, really close. You're going to see tomorrow first-round picks at some point. Ryan Waldschmidt for Kentucky could sneak in there. Jack Caglone going to be a top 5 pick in the coming draft. You will see a bunch of Tennessee players taken in the first 3 rounds. Moore and Amick, based in MLB pipeline, got them as first rounders right now. Who knows? Dean Curley could be down the line. Who knows? But a lot of guys are going to get drafted high. You're going to see 3 first rounders at Florida State, and Arnold, Tibbs, and Cam Smith, and A&M. Lavalette 1-1 overall next year, maybe, if he's healthy. I think Gavin Grohovac going to be a first rounder in a couple of years. Prager could sneak into the first round, probably a second rounder. Drew Beam, won't see him tomorrow. Probably going to be a second rounder based on what I'm seeing. Guys, we have got the ultimate combination of teams and talent. Other than LSU, Florida last year, which was just crazy. You've already got 2 guys in the big leagues from that one. Or is it 3? I think it's at least 2. And I saw that Dylan Cruz got called up to AAA.
Right.
College baseball, in terms of talent that is getting Omaha, it's never been in a better spot. And throwing out maybe LSU and Florida last year, which was just incredible. You're going to see a lot of that again tomorrow. So we are looking forward to watching that. We will be here to recap it tomorrow night. We'll be doing a live stream at 9 Central. Sorry we were a little late getting started tonight. That was my fault. Due to a stupid technical glitch that I should have seen coming but didn't. But, hey, we move on and we make the best of it. So thank you for being patient through that. For Graham Doty and Alfred Ezman, I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 14. God bless you all. Have a wonderful night.